Anti-Society. Welcome back to the Anti-Social Planet. Today we are finishing up TWICETAGRAM with a part 3, getting into the last 4 songs, and I am so excited. Have I already saved this album so I can stream it all the way through as soon as I am done filming this? Yes, I have. Yeah. Was I also bopping, full out dancing to Rollin' earlier today? Yes, I was. I feel like I'm too excited to get to the end of this album, and I feel like this could go a few different ways, right? Like, I feel like maybe we get 1 or 2 more like dance bops, but I also feel like we're gonna have to bring it down. I feel like they're gonna get me in my feelings at some point in this. I just don't know when, right? I don't know if it's gonna be the very last song. I don't know if it's gonna be like second to last. I don't know, but I feel like they're gonna come for me a little bit in the emotions. I just don't know when. That being said, I am super excited to get to the rest of this album so I could just listen to it all the way through. It's been so much fun. There are so many songs on it that I absolutely love, and I can't wait to just be able to listen to it front to back and get like the full uninterrupted experience of it. So let's just get into the first song because this is going to be a long video as per usual. Love Line. I feel like maybe we're going to be getting into the phone call kinds of things like we've had already in this album of them talking about, I want you to just think of me at certain points and reach out and all of that. Maybe we'll get into that. If that's what I'm thinking of, a line, I'm thinking of like a phone call. I don't know. Ooh. Fun synths. Love those drawn out piano notes. I think that is probably the longest I have gone uninterrupted listening to any song because I was just like, I had to interrupt it. The melody, the vocal melodies are really interesting. I don't really know how to describe that because, again, my knowledge of music theory is limited, and I know I should just sit down and properly learn it, but I've had multiple people try to teach me, and it doesn't stick. But it feels like it's, I don't know, like a counter melody or it's a half note or whatever. Like they're descending when it feels like they should be ascending in the notes, which is really interesting, especially since it adds this feeling of it's not lifting with the musicality. Like it's not becoming this like really upbeat, bright sound like we've heard in some of their other songs. It has this descending, darker sounding vibe to it, which I think is really interesting. It has this melancholy built in the way that the melody works, but then with these synths coming through, it has this very retro dance feeling to it, which they've already done little bits of throughout this album. So I love that's something that's being like pulled forward, especially since it's TWICETAGRAM, right? It's referencing social media very heavily throughout the album and the different references throughout it. And yet there's this like retro feeling to the musicality, which I think is really cool, like to the point where there's almost like doo-wop inspired parts to some of the songs. So I think that's really cool to have that retro feeling to the music whilst also having these very topical references throughout the actual lyrics and the presentation of the overall album. I feel like it, especially since there's lots of talk about love and acceptance and trying to understand yourself, but also the perception that other people have of you, right? Again, through social media, obviously it's like a curated image, but it's like, how do I present myself in such a way that people perceive me in a very specific way? And whether that is something that is genuine to who you are, or if it's a genuine but still filtered because there should be a certain distance between who you are as an actual person, especially if you're an idol, and the person that you are presenting publicly, or is it very highly filtered? And is your perception of other people accurate, right? We've talked about that throughout the love songs too, of them thinking that this person is interested in the same way that they're interested in them, but that perception is actually incorrect and that person doesn't feel the same way. So there's tons of that being pulled through this through the lens of both social media, but it's not something that is strictly social media, right? It's something that people have struggled with throughout time. Is the way that you read people externally accurate to who they are internally, and vice versa for you, right? So I think it's really interesting to pull that through. And oh, I love this sonically overall. Like it has this more subdued feeling to it, and yet it still has some of that fun, upbeat, poppy love song feeling to it overall. I love these isolated synths too. Cool filter on the voice too. Ooh, interesting too to have this line in lots of different ways of walking a line. Then there's also a line as in a string tying people together, which there's like the red string of fate or whatever, which is interesting because they've pulled that into their more recent stuff as well. And I was thinking that with Your Scent, we've had Bloom with Youth, where that was like obviously a motif that was like throughout that whole thing. But I just find it interesting that's a thing that they reference so much later in their work. There's so much music between this album and with Youth, and it's interesting that there is connections there in the kinds of stories that they're telling. Again, like I was saying before about leaning into the timelessness of a lot of the experiences that they're pulling on. Yes, there are things that are specifically topical and trendy, and I talked about that in the Likey music video of them putting in things that were very trendy of the time that song came out, but at the same time the experience being expressed is timeless and it isn't specific to the thing that they're talking about, which I think is really interesting in the conversation of social media. I feel like a lot of the time when we have conversations about social media, it is through this lens of newness and uncharted territory, and I think that there is a lot of that with social media and technology and the way that we're currently using it, but the experiences of loneliness and perception and persona and separating someone from their humanity and simplifying them down, that isn't a new concept. Those aren't new experiences. So I think it's very interesting that they're pulling on that, just like the parallels of the stuff that they continue to bring into their music, even though it's a very different sound, very different thing that they're trying to communicate. There's different nuances to the way that they're pulling that image forward, but it's interesting. I also love the subdued vocals that we're getting in the chorus. We get like a little more closure, but they have a very subdued way that they're delivering the vocal line, which it's interesting to have this more like subdued tinge of melancholy throughout it. There's longing and nostalgia for something that doesn't actually exist, which is interesting. I'm sorry, I interrupted that like vocal run that Jungkook was doing there, but I love like all the little synths that are happening in the back, like very staccato, like isolated synths, which is very interesting. But also the look into my eyes, we already had look at me, so again pulling images forward throughout the whole album. Love that pass off of them all delivering the lines, and even I was thinking the holding hands. So we have line in terms of walking the same line, almost like a path. We have it in terms of these strings holding people together. We also have that point of contact of holding someone's hand. So interesting to have lots of different takes on line and how that is incorporated into the song. Just overall like a sonically interesting, and I think different from what else has been on this album so far. That ad lib though. Ooh, loved that. There was like a certain vibe to that song that I loved it. I loved all the synths. I loved the like, I want to sing like almost like arpeggios with the synths in the back. I don't know. Again, music theory, not my strong suit. Love the more subdued vocal. It wasn't even necessarily that they were like doing like a really breathy voice, which is usually what I think of when they get to a more subdued delivery with their vocals, but it was just contained, which I think is really interesting with the song, where it has this secretly I'm thinking about you all the time. Do you feel the same way as me? Look into my eyes so I can understand what you're feeling, so you can know my heart. It has this tentative feeling to the lyrical content of the song, that having a vocal that feels like it is very contained within a very specific range, and there's only certain parts where they get into like more of a belting tone, and it's very like specific to like accent specific parts, but they're very intentionally keeping the vocals in this very contained spot. And I think that's really interesting because it adds into the storytelling of what they're talking about. And when they do have those moments of getting into a little bit more of a belting tone, it is in those moments of trying to break out of that containment and actually looking for answers and stuff like that. I think that's a really interesting thing to put into the audio storytelling of this. And I don't, just like an interesting song. I feel like there's probably so many details in this that I just didn't pick up on, but an intriguing way to start off this part of the album. And they all sounded fantastic, obviously. Interesting that they had the same line distribution for the chorus though. And I know people say whatever about line distribution. I always like when they switch who's singing what parts in the chorus, just because I like to hear how other people would do it. Not that they didn't all do wonderfully with their lines. I was just like, but I would like to hear a voice try it and have like their own tone and their own like approach to it. I just think it's interesting, but to each their own with that. Now we have Don't Give Up. That seems like a good sentiment. I think that's a good place to be. Maybe this will be upbeat. I hope it doesn't give me my feels. I'm like tense about it. Like I'm just waiting for the moment where they really get me. Oh, it's gonna be Bob. Let's go. Such a weird beat. I don't even know what's happening. So much going on with the production, and it has like these really heavy points in it, where like it accented points in the production, but it feels like the vocal melody wasn't like matching up with it. My brain was like, wait, hold on. And then they like synced up and I was like, okay. And is this gonna be another one that messes with my brain? At least it's not the first one, but I like the overall sentiment of like, don't give up, and I'm not the only one who's like this. Everyone has their worries, and it might feel isolating and like a unique experience, but there's someone else who feels the same way as you. I also think it's interesting that it says draw on your heart's canvas, because we had in the previous song where we talked about coloring in or color our love or whatever. There was something about that. So pulling that forward, but more of a inward facing like love, like finding love for yourself and your own experience and not giving up on yourself. And there's been lots of talk throughout this of like external validation, whether that is through love, romance, or again, like social media. We post stuff online because we want some kind of external validation of the things that we are making or creating or doing. So interesting to have a song that is shifting inward and saying the internal experiences that you're having are not as isolating as you might think. And either there is a after this point, right? There is a getting through to the other side, maybe. The production though. That vocal sample though. And then all the production is pulled out. I mean, it is if it's Sana. No, what is this production? What are we doing? Like, my brain is trying to make sense of it, and there's like points where it all pulls out, and there are parts where it's a lot of the elements are pulled back. There are parts where the vocal melody matches with it, and other times where it feels like it's fighting it. And I don't know what to do with the song. I don't know. I feel like also, okay, I would also tell Sana that she's the prettiest, just the way she is, every day, if given the opportunity. That just feels like a given. I feel like it's interesting to say like there's something else besides those flowers. I feel like flowers can be a couple of different ways. It can be like something that is beautiful, and that's what is seen as its purpose, is to be beautiful and on display, and saying there's something besides that, especially again digging into social media and stuff. Idols, the experience of being a public figure, to be something other than just beautiful and something to look at and something that's on display, and instead to be something that has more to it. I also think of flowers in terms of accomplishment, right? Like I can't think of the exact turn of phrase, but it talks about like getting your flowers, at least in English, that is a bit congratulatory, right? You give someone flowers when they've accomplished something, and that is your way of acknowledging that they have done that. So it's like saying that there's something besides that validation, again, that like external validation of someone else approving of the thing that you have done, congratulating you on something that you have accomplished. And that isn't necessarily the only thing that you need to be focused on. It can also just be existing. It can be doing things that make you happy. It can be following things that spark your interest. And like they were talking about, like, draw whatever you want, and you can make whatever you want, and it doesn't really matter, right? You don't need to create something because you'll get congratulations for it, or because other people will think that it's beautiful, or that they'll understand the purpose of it, or that you'll have that kind of external acknowledgement of its importance. Sometimes you just make stuff because it's fun to make stuff, or because you're trying stuff. I think that one of the best things about creativity is play. Back when I used to teach visual art, some of my favorite classes were with kids, really young kids, and teaching them about art because they would just make the wildest things. You teach grown-ups and they follow the steps and they have certain inspirations, and you can see how they're structuring the way that they're making something. And then when you teach kids, they're just like, I'm just gonna make a bunch of stuff because you gave me a bunch of art supplies, and I'm just gonna see what happens when I mix all this stuff together and mix all these ideas together. And it can be wonderful and chaotic to just see people make things completely uninhibited by thinking that this needs to be something that is good or follows a certain structure or fits into something. They're just making stuff because they can. And I think that we lose a lot of that when we start to make anything, whether it's art or we're learning about something, right? Sometimes we just want to learn stuff, and I think that a lot of us feel like we need to learn something with an end purpose in mind. There needs to be some kind of goal to us teaching ourselves stuff, because why else would you learn something? It's sometimes you're just curious. Sometimes you just want to know stuff. Sometimes you just want to try things out. Sometimes you just want to play and have fun and experiment, and it doesn't need to be because there's some ultimate purpose or there's some kind of external validation of it. There's lots of stuff that I make and I don't tell anybody about it. I don't post about it on social media. I don't talk to my friends or my family about it. I just make some stuff and I try things out because I can, and it's fun and I like it, and it doesn't need to be something that is shared or anything. It's just because I'm like seeing what happens if I try to make it. And I think that there's a certain joy and magic to that a lot of us lose when we think that there has to be some kind of like purpose for that. Maybe the production is throwing me so much though. I love all the like distorted vocals. Also the bells. Beautiful. Fun. I love that. before we continue, I love all the little vocal things, like distorted vocal samples that are throughout it. That's really fun. I also love the be your own DJ and dance. Just have fun, just make stuff, just be a party of one. There was also, Mina had the one line of like loving yourself more. Yeah, live for me, love me more, which feels very much like, again, like internal validation, that idea of I'm just gonna make stuff and I'm gonna do stuff that makes me happy, and it doesn't matter what other people think about it, and you shouldn't also think about it. Your value is not because of the things that you accomplish, the validation that you get from other people, the congratulations, the awards, the acknowledgement. That isn't what makes you valuable. What makes you valuable is that you exist, that you're here, that you experience things in your own unique way. No one is ever going to experience life the way that you do, and that inherently makes you valuable. So I think that it's really cute to have a song near the end of this album that is very much this internal validation and this, hey, remember, with all of the stuff of falling in love and romance and friendships and social media and looking up to idols and pop culture and media, all of these things that are being thrown at you, that isn't what you should be like comparing yourself to. That isn't what validates who you are. That isn't what should be something that you base your whole life around. Instead, it should be like what, dig internally and like what makes you happy, what makes you smile, what ignites energy within you and giddiness, and lean into that, because I feel like we really lose that. I feel like play is something that we think of as childish and something that we have to leave behind, but in reality there are so many things that I'm like, I'm just going to think of this as a game. I'm just going to make this into play, and things become inherently more enjoyable when I do that. I was even talking to my therapist about how I've been looking at my anxiety, because I have a lot of anxiety, but I've been learning a lot more about it and researching more on like the technical side of anxiety and how it works. And I told her, like, I turned it into a game of, and anytime that my anxiety starts to act up, I've made it into a little playful game, cartoon, Looney Tunes feeling experience, and have decided to have fun with it. And it has shifted a lot of how I manage my anxiety and how I look at it, because for so long it was like this big scary thing that I had to deal with all the time, and making it into a game made it fun and whimsical and ridiculous, and it has changed a lot of how I look at my anxiety. And I feel like that is something that a lot of us could incorporate to what we do, because I think that we get too focused on how am I going to accomplish something? How is this going to become important? Or this matters to me and therefore it is important, or this is for work or some important thing that you have to do in your life because you're an adult, and sometimes you just have to do the hard, difficult, weird things that you just, no one prepares you for. You're just kind of like thrown in, you have to figure it out as you go. But can you make that play? How can you make that a game? How can you, at least if that can't be play or a game, how do you incorporate more of that into your life, right? Like, how do you spend your free time, and does it include play? Because I feel like it should. And I think it's really interesting to have that as something that is brought to mind by listening to the song. And I think also this is just a really fun song. It's really all over the place. It's making my brain hurt a little bit, but having all these fun little vocals in it doesn't take itself seriously, right? They have all these fun little vocal samples, and they have a bunch of distortion and stuff on them. And I think that's just like really fun already. And it has this like weird drum. It almost sounds like a bongo or whatever. And it is like this weird, fun song that isn't taking itself seriously. And I love that. I also have the ad-libs here.
Baby, don't give up.
I mean, I like that we ended with the don't give up, and over again of don't give up, don't get yourself down, don't take yourself so seriously, don't be so harsh on yourself. And I feel like we have a lot of that too. A lot of the reason that we're looking for outside validation, the reason that we post stuff on social media and want to look at the comments and the likes and the engagement with it, is because internally we're struggling with that kind of validation, right? We make something and we look at it and we go, I don't think this is very good, or I don't really feel like this is up to par with what I wanted it to be. And you post it because you're like, I want someone else to validate that this thing is good, or to tell me that this is good. Or even if you're proud of it, there's probably a part of your brain that's like still doubting it, and you're like, if other people say that it's good, then my pride is justified in it because other people also acknowledge that it's a good, right? So I feel like a lot of the time, the reason that we're so focused on outside validation or achievement, or if I can just do the next better thing, then that can prove something about myself, is because you're not able to just get that validation inwardly, and you're not able to look at yourself through your own eyes and say like, this is fun, or this is good, or this is worth doing, and you need to instead find that somewhere else. So saying, hey, don't take yourself so seriously, don't be so hard on yourself, have strength, don't give up, keep making stuff, still keep doing stuff, but also have fun with it. And it doesn't need to be to accomplish something specific or to get that outward validation, and you're worth more than just the things that you accomplish or the checklist that you have, or even just the romance stuff that's been throughout this album. Whether or not you're in a relationship does not say whether or not you're invaluable, right? And if you're struggling with that, maybe you just need to take a break, or you need to take a step back. Just because we're shown in lots of media and there's a societal expectation that you should be in some kind of romantic relationship doesn't mean that you have to be, doesn't mean that you need to be right now, doesn't mean that you need to take the next romantic relationship that you come across because it's there, and the idea of being alone is scarier to you than being in a relationship that matters. You can make your own milestones, you can make your own checklist, you can make your own goals, and it can be just because it's fun or just because it's what you want. And I think that it's important to like remember that, and to not be so harsh on yourself just because of the outside expectations. But wild song sonically. I love all the messages in it. But production wise, crazy. I feel like a song called You In My Heart is gonna get me in my feelings, but maybe it'll be fine. Famous last words? Okay. Little dramatic at the beginning, but it feels a little bit more upbeat.
잠이 오지 않는 오늘 밤에 나 우두커니 앉아 반짝이는 저 하늘 보며 하나 둘씩 별하는 이 밤에 and all day 바람결에 스를 눈 감아 사랑스러운 네 숨결 부드러운 목소리로 내 맘에 스며들어 날 비춰주는 너
I don't know why I got shivers, but I did. Ooh, okay. I know we're going to the drop. Ooh, okay. Okay. I was already like, it's a little funky with the guitar. It's coming in. Interesting with some of the vocal melodies. I don't know, I got shivers at the one part where the instrumentation built up. Mina was singing. Hang on. Hang on. Gosh, I have no idea what my favorite song was gonna be, because I was like, this feels like another contender for favorite song on this album. And I have no idea. There's what, 5? 6? I've lost count. I don't know. I don't know how many at this point. I'm gonna have to listen to the whole thing all the way through many times before I decide. But no, I'm already like, okay. With the instrumentation, it's bassy, it's funky, okay. Ooh, beautiful cry there. Okay, couple of things. 1, love of the synths. 2, love the vocal melodies. 3, there's this wind up in the one synth, which is really cool. It ups the energy just a little bit before we go into some of the other parts. 4, if this isn't an OST for something, I'm going to actually be mad. Because you cannot listen to this song and tell me that this is not a soundtrack to something. It's got a little bit of nostalgia, it's upbeat, it has some optimism, but it's also got some of that melancholy. And I just feel like if this is not in a soundtrack for something, it has been a grave injustice. Maybe it was, but if not, how dare the world not use this in an OST? Real talk. There was other things that I wanted to talk about. There was a beautiful cry there from Nayeon. All her voices sound great anyway. Ooh, this album, gosh darn it. I had a feeling it was gonna be good. too many people have told me that they wanted me to get to this album. This is their favorite album or it has their favorite songs on it, for it to not be good. And it's Twice. I was expecting it. But there's some extra on this album, I'm telling you. Because, yes, okay, some of their newer stuff, obviously, adore those albums. But going chronologically, I could just imagine if you had just been experiencing Twice, right? Going through all the albums, comebacks before this, and then this album dropped, I would not be able to function. I'd be like, this would be the hyperfixation. I would be annoying about it. Everyone who didn't listen to Twice before this in my life, I'd be like, no, you don't understand. This album would have been my whole personality. And it might be anyway, honestly. But if I'd listened to it when it came out, yeah, in my entire personality for a very long time. Dang it, I don't have time. I don't have time to put another album into my normal rotation. It's already getting a bit worrisome, and I'm gonna have to do it. That like bass into like quieting everything down. Okay, no, I was distracted by how pretty Mina's voice sounded there, and then we got the little harmony there with Gio. Also, okay, couple of things. One, are they talking about themselves? Because it's like You in My Heart, so it feels a little bit like it's them almost like a love song to themselves of being like same memories or like memories resembling each other, like breathing the same air and like being in the same place. But it could also be fans. I'm willing to concede that as well, of this being a song to once, of saying even if we're not like physically in the same place, we're like, you're in my heart, I'm taking you with me as I'm going through doing stuff, right? Especially since a lot of this album again has been like external validation from some good places, some not good places. It's been this kind of roller coaster of outward perception and some of the good and bad of that, and some of the gray zone of some of it as well. And having a song that is towards their actual fans, I mean, we appreciate you and acknowledge that you're something that we carry with us and is a positive to the way we carry that with us as we go through stuff, especially since they have had a couple of songs in this album that are specifically about some of the tumultuous parts of being an idol, right? Even just with Likey is very much this weird double-sided perception of it, of them being like, yes, we like being idols, yes, we enjoy being musicians and having the opportunity to be Twice and performers, but at the same time there's this other side of it where with that comes also not great experiences as well, and you don't get to have just the good without also the bad. Like, it is a joint package with that, and I think that it is sweet to have a song that is about the kind of true fan base of the people who actually support them and that they carry with them, of, in their own words, of not giving up, of saying, I'm going to carry that, knowing that even when I'm going through difficult times, even when I have worries, even when I have to get up on stage and be happy and upbeat because that's what the song is, that's what the performance is, and I'm not having a good day, I'm doing it because I want to make those people smile. I want to make those people's day better. I'm doing it for those people that are like legitimately their fans, that support them and care about them and that they care about in return, carrying them in their heart regardless of what's going on. Maybe? Why is Mina's voice so pretty? Has that reflection in the eyes too. Okay, I'm like, I don't know when to interrupt because they're just like beautiful parts of it. Also, every time that they say star, I just think, I'm gonna be a star, which is probably the point, right? I feel like every time they do that, they're referencing because it's an earlier part of their career, right? That starts playing in my head every time. But it does feel like it is fans. I feel like it could be also them internally, again, showing love to themselves and saying this is something that beyond just being like a fan song, I think that there is an interpretation of saying also having love for yourself. But I also think it is like towards fandom, like saying, I want to be like your shining star. I want to show you, like they talk about like the reflection in their eyes. I want to show you like my vision of what the world can be, or what the possibilities are, and the light on the other side of everything. Like I want to show you all of the optimism that I have. And they said Look at Me felt more of a love song of look at me so I can look into your eyes and I can understand how you feel about me, and the complexities of romance and love and someone's perception of you and your perception of them and all of that. And instead in this one, it's like simplifying that down to, I want you as like a fan, as someone who looks up to me, who is a fan of mine, to look into my eyes and understand the sincerity of what I'm saying and how I appreciate you. And even though I can't always put into words everything that I'm feeling or experiencing, I want to be able to look at you and like connect in that way, especially like with a fan base, right? I know that there are like concerts and fan meets and all of that. There are opportunities of having moments to interact one-on-one with the members, but given how big their fan base is, given how much they have to do as idols, especially as their career continues to get more and more popular, right? This is not them reaching some of the heights that they will, that their ability to have that one-on-one connection is limited. But there is a time where like they can be at a concert or at a schedule where they can briefly interact with fans and they can meet eyes with them and be like, I hope that you can look into my eyes, see all the things that I want to say, but I can't, I don't have the opportunity right now, right? So I think it's really sweet overall. Also, like just like sonically, I love the production on this. Gorgeous. Also, the vocals are just like, popping off. The harmonies, little harmony parts, the layers of them all coming together. I always love when they layer up a bunch of their voices, because there are like a bunch of members to this group, and I think that it's just so beautiful when you can see the way that they blend together and they layer together, and it just makes them feel really cohesive. Like, it just makes it feel like it's like this wall of sound in the most beautiful way. Ooh. Cute. Aww, that's a cute song. Also, just again, if it isn't in an OST of something, I'm gonna be mad. And I understand that it feels a little bit like it's a personal song between Twice and Once, but you gotta put it in something, even if it's just like their own thing. I don't know. Do they have concert films? Do they have like docu-series? I don't know all of the things yet. I'm sure someone told me at some point, but there's so much Twice content that I cannot guarantee that I have been able to keep track of exactly all of it, especially since I'm like, I don't know, we're just gonna do discography stuff, and like occasionally I deviate into other things, but like we just focus on one thing at a time. So if there are, that needs to be in there. That has to be some kind of like OST of some kind, even if it's just their own stuff, because I would be so upset with the world if it isn't, because it screams soundtrack to something, especially with those very cinematic percussion moments in it, that I just feel like you have to use those in some way. Such a beautiful song overall, just upbeat. I feel like this part of the album has been like this subdued feeling. The previous parts of the album has had more upbeat, groovy, very bright songs, with the exception of the beginning of the album where it started off with a little bit of a more subdued note than I was expecting, and then this has brought it down again, which I think is really interesting, to just have a little bit of a cyclical feeling, but also it almost feels like they distilled down what they wanted to talk about near the end of the album, where it's talking about like encouragement and appreciation for like their fans and for themselves, and like offering that encouragement of kind of separating external validation from internal validation and figuring out what matters. And even if you are getting external validation, where's that coming from? And it shouldn't just be like any person. It should be like specific people who have a specific meaning to you, right? For them, that's like their fans, the people who connect with their music, who understand, who take the time to understand and connect with them both as people as much as we can, because they are idols and they are entitled to a certain separation, again, of who they are as public figures and who they are as like actual human beings. But once we take the time to like actually listen to all their songs, listen to the B-sides, watch stuff that's more like personality based, watch live streams and the kinds of things they're posting on social media, and take more time to understand them than the average person that might have opinions about them and say that very pointedly on social media and what have you, right? And the transition from Likey, which felt very much like, how do I appeal to the masses, to this of being like, how do I appeal to the people that really matter to me, and like, where is that external validation coming from, and being mindful of that. It's interesting. We have one more song though, and I'm still waiting for them to fully get me in my feels. I feel like this one was like sweet, loved it, but it had an upbeat feeling to it that it didn't quite get me to my core of crying because of the things that they're talking about. Going into the last song of this album, I feel like this is gonna get me in my feelings because they haven't yet. Fully ballad, heart to heart. And I just feel like the title of the song, Sleep Tight, Good Night, it's gonna get me right here. It's over 4 minutes too. That's a long time if you're gonna get me in my feelings. Oh no, it's acoustic.
오늘 하루는 어땠나요? 힘든 일은 없었나요? 그렇게 하루하루 살아가면 되는 거겠죠. 조금만 더 힘을 내요 내 생각엔.
Vocals.
Baby, think about me all night long. 우리 함께하는 이 시간 꿈속에선 오직 우리 둘만이 만들어갈 행복한 순간. 샤랄랄랄라 샤랄랄랄라 잘 자요 우리 꿈속에서 다시 만나요.
Oh, I didn't know where to interrupt. I can feel it. I can feel the tears building up behind my eyes. They're so cute. Vocals. Oh my gosh, their vocal sound so good. They got this beautiful little vibrato that they're putting at the end of the lines. The shalala is really cute. We had the Have Strength again from the Don't Give Up. Two of Us Together, we had that just in the last song. Even just the Tim's part of like, how was your day? Anything bad happen? And I'm just like, I can feel myself starting to tear up because I'm like, sometimes we have bad days. And it's sweet that you're asking. Beautiful melodies around. Love that we had the layered vocal coming in with Junghyun's part. I mentally prepared myself, but I still wasn't ready.
잘 자요 우리 꿈속에서 다시 만나요. 나를 떠올려봐요. 나를 만나러 와요.
Ooh, the vocal slide.
굿나잇 잘 자요.
I gotta go back. Why are they so sweet? Why are they so cute? I also love the idea of if you had a bad day, it's okay. Let's just tuck in, go to sleep. Tomorrow's a new day. We'll try again. Think of me, dream of me, think of things that make you happy, and we'll start again tomorrow. Y'all are so cute. And the cute aggression is building. I'm just like, what? Why are y'all so sweet? What's up with that? Fine, just wreck me.
나를 만나러 와요. Baby 굿나잇 잘 자요. 어젯밤은 어땠나요? 좋은 꿈은 꿨었나요? 그렇게 하루하루 살아가면 되는 거겠죠. 조금만 더 힘을 내요 내 생각에.
Ooh, beautiful.
Baby, think about me all night long. 우리 함께하는 이 시간 꿈속에선 오직 우리 둘만이 만들어갈 행복한 순간. 샤랄랄랄라
Ooh, guitar.
잘 자요 우리 꿈속에서 다시 만나요.
That little harmony.
만나러
bring the pianos in. Okay, couple of things. One, I love that when they have the how was your day or how was your night, there's like space after that question. Beautiful detail, because it's like asking the question and leaving space for an answer. Simple kind of thing. And it feels like it's slowing it down, but it's like they're literally giving you space within the song to have an answer to that question, or at least think about it. Because I think a lot of the time when we hear someone say, hey, how are you? That's just small talk. You're supposed to say, fine, how are you? We all know the kind of motions of the majority of people who ask you how you are. They don't actually want to know how you are. And I think leaving the space there is, hey, but actually, how are you? How do you feel right now? And giving you the space to think about it and check in with yourself and have an answer to that question. And I think that's just so sweet. Also, this part, the natted repeated, has a lullaby feeling to it, which I think is really cute, given the theme of the song of, hey, let me just tuck you in and wish you good night and have pleasant dreams and it's okay, we'll try again tomorrow feeling to it. Also the little harmony parts where they layer their voices. There's a few parts where they dug it into more of the mix range. We had a beautiful, gorgeous tone from Junghyun. Nayeon's also done it. Just the guitars are gorgeous. These little moments of, they have the strumming, I think it's two guitars, or at least two guitar like lines that are strumming throughout, and then moments of letting the guitar shine through, even though it's all acoustic, which I also think is really interesting to have acoustic guitar, which is more of like an analog way of having that instrument come through, especially with the amount of like synths and stuff that have been in this. And then it sounds like we're bringing in like a piano, having more like instruments that are like physical instruments that you could play. I could go pick up my acoustic guitar right now and figure out a way to play this song. I say that as if I could play it by ear. I'm not that good at it, but someone could, right? And it would sound like the song is making something more tactile and grounded. And I think that's really interesting to have that in, again, an album that is very much social media and external validation and synths, and has a lot kind of going on sonically, and to bring it all back to this very like simple analog instruments is really nice. And they're all sweetie pies and I'm suffering. They have this beautiful like little vibrato they're putting into. It's gorgeous.
Baby, think about me all night long. 우리 함께하는 이 시간 꿈속에선 오직 우리 둘만이 만들어갈 행복한 순간. 샤랄랄랄라 샤랄랄랄라 잘 자요 우리 꿈속에서 다시 만나요. 오늘도 수고 많이 했어요. 이제 편히 쉬어요. 내 생각하면서 나도 그대 생각하며 그대 꿈속에 찾아갈게요. 잘 자요. Good night.
Are we just gonna play it out? We even got the fade out. Gosh darn it, they got me crying. I was like, yeah, I'm in my feelings. I feel a lot of things. They're so wholesome. They're so cute. And then Sana took me out. Look, I didn't think that I needed to hear Sana tell me that I did a good job, but I did. Like her little, you did a good job today. That's fine. Whatever. I'm not too invested in this group. You are. I'm fine. All right, fine. They're really sweet. Look, I thought I was gonna cry at some point because I thought that they were gonna put something in it that was like really sweet or whatever. But I was expecting something like more sentimental. I feel like that's usually with the end of an album, and it's like sentimental, it's sweet, and that makes me cry because I'm just like, y'all are just like the cutest little sweetie pies ever. I wasn't expecting to cry from comfort. Does that make sense? Here's one thing of someone saying, hey, this matters a lot to me and we're really grateful for our fans or whatever. I feel like that's usually what we get near the end of an album. I'm really appreciative to fans and the opportunities that I've gotten and the career that I have, and this all really matters to me, and I'm very grateful for that. And that's what gets me, because I'm like, you deserve it. But this is more them telling me that I deserve it. I did a good job, and I'm just like, I didn't know that I needed that comfort until I got here, and you're like, hey, we're gonna have, what was it, Misamo that was doing like all comforting, and I'm like, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I can't handle that, okay? Especially, I didn't expect Sana to be the one to take me out, honestly, because she does everything in cute, right? And she's just little ball of adorable energy that I did not expect her specifically telling me that I did a good job to just completely break me. But here we are. Oh, this album though, I feel like I definitely need to just listen to it all the way through uninterrupted, really take it in as a whole thing. But it really is the album, isn't it? There are so many good songs on this, so many wonderful moments. I love the way that they interwove a bunch of the different images and concepts, and even though it doesn't necessarily have a overarching clear story, right, there is very deliberately references to songs before it, right? Like, there's a very specific order to the way that the songs are, and this building on experiences, and they have a song and they build on a motif or experience or whatever within that song, and then they can carry that forward later, right? They've built up that image so they can pull on that later and be like, hey, remember that thing that we explained before? We can bring that forward and start to talk about it some more in songs coming up, and how that idea continues to be developed as they look at it from different angles and through different experiences and describing it through different images. And just overall, definitely an album that I'd be listening to so many times. I have no idea what my favorite song is. No idea. I couldn't even give you a ballpark of it. Half the songs of this album could be like my new favorite Twice song, and I don't know what to do with that information now. I don't know how to process that is something that exists right now, and I'm gonna have to listen to this album a lot more. So let me know down in the comments all of your thoughts. Let me know what your favorite song on this whole album is, and maybe that will help with my decision. Maybe it will confuse me. I don't know. I'm gonna have to decide on that front, but I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. You can click this playlist to go to my previous reactions, or you can subscribe to me next time I post a Twice reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.